This is Joe Biden, woman's town hall with Hillary Clinton, where she is endorsing that one same Joe Biden, and that Joe Biden has fallen asleep. Now, this is in the midst of sexual allegation claims. The entire reason that Clinton was endorsing him was to some degree to take up some of the room that the Tare Reade case has started to actually gain a little momentum. Well, they needed to try to put something else out there. So Nancy Pelosi endorsed them. Hillary Clinton comes out at the women's virtual town hall to endorse him. And symbolically, he falls asleep. Nobody is messing with this. He literally just dozed off.
Been classified as essential.
He's just out of it. He's going to wake up all of a sudden. He's going to be jolted awake. Watch. He's like, oh, he didn't keep it that far. Eventually, he gets jolted awake. And when he jolts awake, he does what I do when I fall asleep. And I realize it's that quick look around. And it's like, just, pull yourself together. Just keep yourself, ain't nobody see it. Ain't nobody see it. No, Joe. Everybody saw it. The virtual town hall he had, I think it was either today or yesterday, didn't go any better. Now, the thing is, in between those town halls, actually not in between at all, it just came out within maybe an hour or so. I don't even know if it's been that long. New documents. Now, these documents further corroborate Tare Reade's story. This time, they are court documents. A 1996 court document confirms Tare Reade's sexual harassment allegation against Joe Biden. Now, let me explain what I mean. When Tare Reade first put in her suit, she says harassment. Now, later on, she went further to say he basically raped me. Now, this is not necessarily inconsistent with the way people talk about this stuff. Sometimes you don't always feel comfortable talking about it. I was abused when I was much younger. I didn't tell until I was, 24 or something like that. I was in the hospital. I didn't want to die without my mom knowing, so I told her. But this is something that, one of those things where it's not atypical for somebody to not necessarily tell every bit of the story. Now, the catch here is, this was a court document. I just read it. The declaration exclusively obtained by the Tribune in San Luis Obispo, California, does not say that Joe Biden committed the harassment, nor does it mention Reade's more recent allegations of sexual assault. Reade then husband Theodore Dronin wrote the court declaration. Dronin at the time was contesting a restraining order Reade filed against him days after he filed for divorce, Superior Court records show. In it, he writes, Reade told him about a problem she was having at work regarding sexual harassment in United States Senator Joe Biden's office. Now, it continues. In the filing date, March 25th, 1996, Dronin testified that he met Reade in the spring of 1993 while the two worked in separate members of Congress of Washington, D.C. Dronin wrote that Reade told him, eventually struck a deal with the chief of staff of the senator's office and left her position. It was obvious that the event had a very traumatic effect on Reade and that she is still sensitive and affected by it today, Dronin wrote. Now, this was a court document, and this was a court document that took place during the time that she's talking about dealing with a guy that was basically her ex-husband. And even though it doesn't necessarily say Joe Biden was the exact person that did do it, this does answer one of those questions. If you remember, I kept asking, there was oddities about her working relationship and what was going on in her office at that time. And it seems that, at least based on the court document, that she told her husband, look, there's some sexual harassment going on in the office, even though she didn't necessarily say Joe Biden. She just said, in the senator office of Joe Biden. Then she makes the point that a deal had been made in that issue. And I suppose that deal that was made had something to do with her, I guess, leaving at the time. And then for that last part, where he says it was very traumatic, they had a very traumatic effect on Reade, and she is still sensitive and affected by it today. Well, that clip that I played of Megyn Kelly does get across somebody who seemed to be it does seem to bother her. Like, that's what I seem. She seems believable to me. But again, I don't know as a flat fact. So there's that. But this is just that much more corroborating evidence for her story that something happened. Whatever that happened, or whatever that was, unless she was just going through life telling people randomly that she was abused by Joe Biden when Joe Biden never touched her, and she just kept telling people that she was abused by Joe Biden. That would be very weird. That would be very bizarre. But I suppose stranger things have happened. If nothing else, what we do know is there is another piece of corroborating evidence, at the very least for the sexual harassment. Here's the thing. I'm curious to know whether, because one of two things is happening. Either one of three things. It's made out of whole cloth. Just made it up out of the blue. And she went through life telling people about this thing that she made up out the blue. It was only sexual harassment. And she expanded it, and Joe Biden doesn't want to say anything on it. Meaning Joe Biden doesn't want to admit to the sexual harassment, and she's claiming rape. Now the catch here is, if Joe Biden comes out and says, look, I never raped her, it was sexual harassment. Yes, I was harassing her, but I never raped her. Does that work? Meaning, is that a defense? Since what she's accusing him of is rape. And for the last point, then he did it. She's absolutely right. She just basically was telling people she couldn't necessarily bring herself to tell the entire story. She might have felt shame, she might have felt embarrassed, whatever she was feeling. And she told certain people, but not necessarily everyone. And she went with the notion of harassment, but eventually came out with the entirety of it, where this man is running for president and this man raped me. There's no way to know which one it is. And, wherever you are and whatever you believe, you're stuck purely, entirely with your beliefs. And that needs to be understood. All we know is there's corroborating evidence for a story. That's the best we got. I'll leave it here. I don't want to keep this one long because there's not entirely much to it. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.